G'day, it's fugitive Australian journalist Shane Dowling from the website and YouTube channel Kangaroo Court of Australia. Now I've just published a new article in relation to the National Anti-Corruption Commission's latest Robodebt scandal. It's pretty self-explanatory, so I'll read it out to you. Now, the article is titled, NACC appoints Colonel Hevey for Robodebt hearings to protect Major Generals Paul Brereton and Catherine Campbell, ? It's published on Thursday the 23rd of October 2025 and it starts off, Army Colonel and Barrister Hevey, RFD, SC, has been appointed as counsel assisting the Robodebt investigation that the National Anti-Corruption Commission Commissioner and Army Reserve Major General Paul Brereton was exposed sweeping under the carpet to at least in part protect his mate and fellow Army Reserve Major General Catherine Campbell. The NACC has become riddled with Defence Force personnel, and how Colonel Hevey was employed as counsel assisting for the Robodebt investigation needs investigating to see if all declarations were made regarding possible conflicts, and if they were made, why was he still employed given the obvious perceived bias with his military career? Instead of the Robodebt cover-up scandal being put to bed, and everyone moving forward, if that's possible, it has been prolonged as there are automatic grounds to make a complaint to the inspector of the NACC for perceived bias, given you have an Army officer in Colonel Hevey investigating former Army Reserve Major General Catherine Campbell. Now, the picture I've got up on the screen now, on the left is National Anti-Corruption Commission Commissioner Major General Paul Brereton. In the middle is Colonel Hevey, who was counsel assisting the secret Robodebt investigation, and Major General Catherine Campbell, who was under investigation for crimes during Robodebt. Robodebt background. Former High Court of Australia Judge Geoffrey Nettle, after being appointed by the National Anti-Corruption Commission, the NACC, to review the Robodebt corruption evidence, told the NACC that each of the 6 referrals raises a corruption issue. What we know is one of the 6 referrals that raises a corruption issue is former Prime Minister Scott Morrison, and another is NACC Commissioner Paul Brereton's good friend Catherine Campbell. The reason Geoffrey Nettle was hired to review the Robodebt corruption evidence is because National Anti-Corruption Commission Commissioner Paul Brereton was exposed last year trying to sweep the 6 Robodebt referrals under the carpet to protect his mate Catherine Campbell. Recent evidence on links to the Department of Defence. Given NACC Commissioner Paul Brereton has a long history of looking after his mates in the Australian Defence Force, you'd think he would stop it, but he continues to do it regularly. On the 16th of October 2025, I published an article titled NACC Commissioner Paul Brereton's fraudulent $100,000 jobs for the boys and girls scam exposed, which starts off, NACC Commissioner Paul Brereton has given contracts to his barrister mates, Matthew Vesper and Christine Ernst, at the National Anti-Corruption Commission via limited tenders, which has corruption written all over it, as you'll see in the video below. Paul Brereton's jobs for the boys and girls rort should be the final nail in his career as a National Anti-Corruption Commission Commissioner, given his history of corruptly looking after his Defence Force mates. In the Brereton report, the Robodebt cover-up, and lying to Parliament about his continued role for the Inspector General of the Australian Defence Force. The video version of the article, NACC Commissioner Paul Brereton's fraudulent $100,000 jobs for the boys and girls scheme exposed, is embedded in the article, so you can just go to my website and read that article and watch that video. And I'll put a link to the article below this video on YouTube. My article goes on to say, Colonel Hevey. There is limited information on Colonel Hevey, and it seems he is no longer in the Army. His page on the Vic Bar website says he served as an Army officer, both regular and reserve, and rose to the rank of Colonel. He was appointed a Judge Advocate and Defence Force Magistrate in 1998 and resigned that appointment to become the inaugural Director of Military Prosecutions between 2003 and 2006. He served 2 tours of Afghanistan and also served in Iraq and East Timor. And it also says, from September 2021 until June 2023, Gary was Chief Counsel to the Honourable Geoffrey Nettle ACKC at the Office of the Special Investigator, Victoria. And I go on to say, Geoffrey Nettle and Hevey investigated the police involved in the Lawyer X scandal at the Office of the Special Investigator, Victoria. NACC July press release. The NACC issued the below statement as part of their July monthly update, which made no mention of Colonel Hevey. Update on the Robodebt referrals investigation. And it says, following the inspector's report last year, we appointed former High Court Justice Geoffrey Nettle KC to reconsider the decision not to investigate the Robodebt Royal Commission's referrals. In February, he decided we would investigate. That investigation is now underway, led by Deputy Commissioner Kylie Kilgore, with Mr Nettle as Chief Advisor. The Commissioner and other Deputy Commissioners who were involved in the original decision not to investigate the referrals, and not participating in the investigation. I go on to say, a media report on the Justinian website says former High Court Justice Geoffrey Nettle KC is acting as Commissioner for the Robodebt investigation. Gary Hevey is counsel assisting. Closing arguments for perceived bias. Those involved will argue Gary Hevey was hired by the NACC for the Robodebt investigation because he worked with Geoffrey Nettle previously from September 2021 until June 2023. But that doesn't cut it, not even close. On the 26th of July 2023, I published an article that started off, National Anti-Corruption Commissioner Paul Brereton is friends with Governor-General David Hurley and Robodebt fraudster Catherine Campbell, which creates a huge issue as corruption allegations against Hurley and Campbell have almost certainly been made to the NACC to evaluate and investigate if they think it is warranted. As you will see in the pictures below, Paul Brereton, David Hurley and Catherine Campbell were senior army officers at the Sydney University Regiment in 2008. I was proven right when Paul Brereton was exposed trying to protect his mate Catherine Campbell, and I'm right now. Gary Hevey should have never been hired by the NACC as counsel assisting. The key issue that had scandalised the NACC and the Robodebt cover-up is that we had an army officer, Major General Paul Brereton, protecting another army officer, Major General Catherine Campbell. And now here we go again, with Colonel and Barrister Gary Hevey being appointed as counsel assisting the Robodebt investigation. NACC Commissioner Paul Brereton also has a lot to lose if the wrong findings are made by the Robodebt investigation, given he tried to cover it up. Will Gary Hevey do the right thing by the law, or be loyal to his fellow army officers Paul Brereton and Catherine Campbell? And that is the issue. It is a question we should not be in a position to ask, because Hevey should not have been appointed by the NACC. As I have previously written, in a court of law, you do not have to prove real bias by a judge. You only have to show evidence that there is perceived bias, and a judge has to recuse themselves from hearing the matter. On the Judicial Commission of New South Wales website, it says, the test for determining whether a judge should disqualify himself or herself by reason of apprehended bias is the objective double might test, whether a fair-minded lay observer might reasonably apprehend that the judge might not bring an impartial and unprejudiced mind to the resolution of the question the judge is required to decide. Gary Hevey is not acting as a judge, but he is counsel assisting, and his actions and submissions have the ability to greatly sway the outcome of the Robodebt investigation. On that basis, and given the perceived bias, he should not have been offered the role or taken the role. All the people involved have legal degrees. Nettle is a former High Court of Australia judge, Brereton is a former New South Wales Supreme Court judge, and Hevey is a barrister. And they know all about perceived bias, which should have ruled out anyone with a Defence Force background going anywhere near the Robodebt investigation. It is quite simple. Keep all Defence Force officers away from the Robodebt investigation, given one of the people being investigated is Catherine Campbell, who was until 2021 a Major General in the Army Reserve, and she is mates with NACC Commissioner Paul Brereton. In fact, keep all Defence Force officers away from the NACC, given the amount of alleged fraud that goes on in the Defence Department, such as the $368 billion AUKUS fraud and theft. Once again, this article is an exclusive that no other media have reported, which shows the importance of independent media, so please read below and support. Now, I'll put a link to that article below this video on YouTube. You can go and read that article. It's got a link to a lot further information. Also, it's got that video in there. You can watch that. There's got a lot of information in there. It's well worth reading. At some stage, I have no doubt this issue will blow up in the NACC's face. Anyhow, please do your bit and help shine a light on corruption and share this video on social media. And please hit the like and subscribe button and notification button. That way you get notified every time I publish a new video. And I'm an independent journalist. I'm 100% crowdfunded from viewers like yourself. So it'd be greatly appreciated if you consider making a donation via PayPal or Patreon. The links are below this video on YouTube or also on my website. And you can donate any amount, $3, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30, $40, $50 a month, whatever suits your budget, all helps out in a big way. Or you can do one-off donations, or you can go to my website and click on the donations page for other donation options. Other than that, thank you for your time and have a good day.